Hey, this is Mark at the Detroit Comic Book and Toy Show. I'm here with artist, inker, John Livesay. How you doing, sir?
Hi, how's it going?
Everything's great. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how did you get started doing comics?
Grew up in Detroit, just outside of over by 8 Mile. And after I finished first grade, we moved a little further up to about the Mount Clemens area, and just I was always in the comics. I thought when I was in high school I was going to open up my own comic book shop, but I just heard how not great it was doing that, so I decided I'd start writing stories. I had another friend of mine in middle school, Phil, who was drawing them. We were doing that for like 2 years, and then just one day I asked for too many changes, and he said, I'm not doing this anymore, and he just left. And he's like, you draw this, and somehow I did, and I just kept practicing. So that was right around like the end of 10th grade. And I was unfortunately late bloomer, like anyone else who's been drawing comics, any other pro, they all started drawing really young. So if I would have done that, I could have started professionally much sooner. I just kept practicing. I went to the Joe Kubert School for, it's a 3-year school. I went for a year and a half after high school, and then I just practiced, and I started getting work a year later. And I just kept it going.
Were you a fan of Joe Kubrick's war covers that he did in the 70s?
Um, I liked them. I was familiar with them. My grandparents had a big box of comics from my dad and his brother, and they were all stuff from 60s and probably 70s. So there were a lot of war books in there. My grandpa was in the Army for 35 years, and my dad loved the military. He was in the Air Force for 37 years. So there's a lot of those war books in there, but they were not as fun as reading Justice League or Fantastic Four. So, but I was familiar with that stuff for a while. Yeah.
So how did you get hooked up with Marvel and DC?
Um, I started at Marvel in the spring of 1994. Weirdly enough, I had gone to the Motor City Con that they always have that spring show. And I got my first pro work that summer before in 93 from everyone had a little company back then after Image started. So I got something from Majestic Comics. And I had samples, and I was trying to get in the wherever, and I really wanted to get in the Marvel. And I was walking around, and there was another Marvel artist there, Ken Lashley, and I showed him my stuff, and he's like, well, this is good. You should just be working. I was like, all right. He's like, I'll just show you stuff to Marvel, and I had just got stuff weeks later. And it was just that randomness of, I was always very good about talking to people, so I could just randomly talk to any artist about stuff and comics and art. So it was great. Yeah, he got me right in, and I just kept working.
So what has been some of your favorite projects you've worked on?
Trying to think. I was doing the Marvel stuff for those first few years, and then the beginning of 1997, I was already working for LIFO before that at Extreme, and we would FedEx the art back and forth, and they had mentioned if you live here, we'll give you way more work, and I was like, that's a big move to move from Detroit to L.A., and I was thinking about it, and another friend of mine was working at Top Cow with Silvestri's company, and he needed a roommate. I was like, you know what? I'll be there in 3 weeks. So I packed up a little U-Haul, drove out there, and I just started. I got there, I think, January 3rd, 1997, and then that was Saturday. By Monday, I was already helping out on Top Cow books, like helping him because everything in comics is very late. So we're doing this stuff as fast as possible. And he needed help, so I was doing panels on. They were doing that Marvel crossover, that Devil's Reign at the time, and I was doing like Elektra panels and stuff. And then I was doing Evangeline for Rob for January, February, and March, 2 issues a month. That stopped, and I just rolled right in the Top Cow, and I stayed there for 5 years. And then, all that Top Cow stuff was great. I was right at the prime time where Darkness just started. Witchblade was still super duper hot back then, and they were like the big place to be. So it was like getting a crash course of going to like an Ivy League school. But you're working and you get like that real experience. So you have to get better because I was a low man on the totem pole, and you already had like Bat was like their great anchor, and so I had to keep getting stuff. I had to keep up, but it was also perfect because I got to see everyone doing stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, because I try to figure out. I'm just doing it my way to think how they do it. Like, oh, they do it like that. So you just keep changing and learning, trying to absorb as much as possible. But like all that Darkness stuff I did was great. I did a run on the Flash. Howard Porter and I did when Jeff Johns was writing it. We did like 2 years on that. I did Legion of Superheroes when Jim Shooter came back. I think that was 2007 or 8. Did 2 years on that. So I've worked on everything. So I've been pretty fortunate. I've worked on a lot of good stuff.
So, what do you got coming out in the future?
I've been working on X-Men since July. So I've been doing like just, again, that book comes out 18 times a year. So it's like, they really needed like help, so I've been doing that over Ryan Stegman, been inking those pages. I have another issue coming out in a week or two, I think issue 15. I'm been helping out on that, been doing covers. So just, been busy.
Do you sleep?
Yeah, I know how to schedule stuff during the day, so I know what to get done and how, like, all right, this is 2 hours. I can get this done, and then I can go pick up my daughter from school, or I go to have lunch, or whatever. So I've gotten it down.
So, being a Detroit native, what were some of your favorite comic book stores that you like to go?
The one I still go to, which is still around, is Comics Corner in Fraser. So I've been going there. They had another location literally across the street, but it was like I've been going there since like third grade or something. I've been going there forever, so I go every week. Still going there now. They're still open, so it's a good shop. Still the same family that owns it, Danny. I used to go to Comics Kingdom when I was really little. It's on 7 in Gratiot. Is that where it was?
I'm not really sure. I'm from downriver, so I know more of the southern.
I think that's where it was. My grandparents lived right by it, so I remember we would just go there, and it was great. And it was on a corner. I think it was Gratiot. Oh, maybe it was Woodward. I don't remember. But, we go there. I remember they had really tall ceilings. They had all the comics on one side. You go to the other side of the shop was all models, like model planes and everything. So, it was a great store back then, so I remember doing that.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, John, and we hope for good things for you in the future.
Thank you.
And this is Mark at the Detroit Comic Book and Toy Show.